In past years, having to do with people who are close to death, people who are suffering from diseases very likely to lead to it, seeing also good deaths, good funerals of souls well prepared with regular confession, lucidity at the moment of death, and great favours even at the moment of death, one sees the big difference in approach to eternity, and therefore to the game of time, as though it were a joke, as though life were something just to be squeezed out to the maximum for pleasure, and sometimes even for pain caused to others so as to receive pleasure in one's baser instincts. One sees the sadness of it all, that only a small proportion seems to get it right with regard to what matters and what doesn't. But there are cases which are quite frightening and puzzling. Some who seem to be brave, unusually brave, before the beyond, and right through the years of preparation to it, joking about it, belittling it, and therefore those who take it seriously. Where is this coming from? Is this bravery or a brazen presumption? As though what we thought commanded what is. Do such people actually know how to think? What is in the mind doesn't change what is outside the mind. It's the same with regard to the real presence. If a non-ordained clergyman, that is, without the apostolic succession behind his ordination, believes in the real presence, what is in his head doesn't alter the fact that it is not there, and vice versa. And so it is that we know from exorcism that the great conspiracy of silence with regard to the beyond, and one particular part of it, is pushed by forces that want to have candidates for it, and that the less it is talked about, the more it fills up. Indeed, it would seem that the great majority of those who are in that place never believed that it existed at all. How clever the enemy of mankind is, both with regard to his own existence and to his own place of abode. We must not talk of it, nor must we talk of what leads to it, certain sins. And he has now very powerful ways and means of making sure that certain sins are not discussed. The moment of death of that holy Indian priest, Father Joseph, years ago, in that terrible motorcycle accident, led him to see the beyond. And he saw hell, he saw people in it that he knew. He saw even priests and even bishops in there. He knew also what kind of sins got many people into there. And he gave some typical examples: abortion, homosexuality, unforgiveness, sacrilege. Now, whether it is politically correct or not to say something about sins, it pertains to the Lord to determine what is a sin. And who are we to say that he is politically incorrect? The Lord on earth is the mystical body, the Church, and the Church is his voice. The Church, in her magisterium, is Vox Christi. And it's not for any human beings to tell Christ, the Logos, the Supreme Judge, what he may or may not say. If we try to do that, we are doing precisely what Lucifer did, what he's still doing, and what he wants to do all along. He wants to be God. And he is preaching, he is teaching, he is aping everything that the Church does, but all upside down. He even has his hour of unmercy at night at 3 o'clock, when hosts are terribly desecrated. And he has made it very easy to make that happen by pushing and pushing for all kinds of excellent motives, communion in the hand. It's much easier to get. There are hosts on the black market, advertised on internet, going for high prices, sometimes the order of €50. It's important to be aware that we only see the tip of the iceberg on this side, but we need to have a flair for things. We don't always have to obey Lucifer. We have to choose which master we serve. Gloria Polo, still alive, as is the priest who saw the other side, Father Joseph, was in that group of people who thought that she was an okay Catholic. When she was fulminated by this terrible lightning and dead, she saw the other side and where she was going and why. Her testimony is out there on internet and is frightening because it's very typical of many souls in our day. But she was given a second chance. Father Stephen Shire, another case, a priest who was dead and he was going to the wrong place. And then Our Lady intervened and pleaded with her Divine Son that he might have another chance. "Mother, he is yours," said the Son, and she brought him back. It would seem that one thing that happens a lot in the priesthood is the abuse of grace. It happens in many Catholics. Much swearing takes place on consecrated lips. What's going on there? Do we realize that we are in the presence of God at all times? The lips, the tongue that consecrates the body of Christ and forgives people's sins and baptizes people, marries people, pronouncing sacramental words. These lips, these tongues are consecrated, and then to use foul language in the presence of the King who is always there before us, is to demonstrate that we are working on two levels. How can we hurt the heart of the one that we love most? We need to be coherent and to behave as though the issue didn't matter, eternity, and to presume that God is just so good that he can't do a thing to hurt us, is not to understand the truth of the situation in the slightest. We hurt ourselves. We exclude ourselves. we are our own worst enemy. God doesn't want anyone lost. He tries his best. But one of the most dangerous things of all is presumption, and coupled with it, hardness of heart. Michelangelo was surely inspired when he put this in the Sistine Chapel. It's all there. The three levels, the judgment, heaven and hell. We either go up or down. If we go up, we usually have to get our act together in purgatory before we can be ready to see the High King. The beatific vision wasn't given actually to Lucifer until he had passed the test, and he didn't. The fullness of vision was to be given only when they passed the test, and we too must pass that test. And no amount of giving the impression of the automatic entry into heaven for everyone will change that one little bit. There is an undertaker who has a lady who prepares the bodies and is very much used to seeing bodies in all kinds of states, getting them ready. In Ireland they are waked and they are exposed, therefore dressed up and washed before the funeral. But this particular one puzzled her. She prepared this body of a man who wouldn't have been that old. He was fairly young, but he had cancer, and he had given some indication of what he wanted for his departure. He was a motorcyclist, and for whatever motive, to use his motorcycling friends perhaps, he wanted sung at his moment of departure when they close the veil in the crematorium over the departing body. He wanted this sung. I'm on the highway to hell. And this lady undertaker, the one who prepared the bodies, even she felt a shiver and said to a friend, it was very eerie. How unwise we are to belittle eternity. It's longer than we think. Gloria Pono's return from the dead. I hold within my hand a mighty thing that should not be, that has no right to be, that men would not have been, to which doth cling a powder of high sulphur, none can see, but only thinly smell. For hell in rage is passing, howling by. And I behold upon a page a cry that shall not age, as men's dim sound, so frenzied and so old. For here no aging comes, but ever young the morrow that long waits, and gates not seen reveal hind seals most huge the very song that doth but dawn upon dawns having been. For there is long cacophony where day was bright, and song most hugely wrong, closed off the night.